Hi, and thank you for joining once again for another exciting lesson. The topic for this one's going to actually be a little bit interesting. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of background knowledge in between, a freight dispatcher versus a freight broker. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of touch base with the pros and cons. Not necessarily which one is better because I believe they're both good, but I'm going to go ahead and just share the information and background about both different careers, so that way you guys have an idea of a little bit about what a freight brokerage is and what is freight dispatching. So one of the things that I want to go ahead and clarify is that dispatchers need brokers and brokers need dispatchers. The reason for that is because pretty much any time that a dispatcher is looking for a load, he is going or she is going to be calling a freight broker, because a freight broker is a person who has that specific load posted on the load board. So I'll give you an example. So let me just go on here. I want to just go ahead and explain something to you. So pretty much anyone who goes ahead and has a post on here, at least the majority of the people, because some shippers do post on here as well, but I'd say 90% of the people who who pretty much post on these load boards are brokers. So that is the reason why I explained that just as much as dispatchers need brokers, brokers need dispatchers. The reason for that is it's pretty much a circle. So if there is no dispatchers, brokers aren't getting calls, and if there's no brokers, then dispatchers can't make any calls to get freight. So I'll explain this here really quick. We'll leave everything just basic. So as you can see, I'll just go ahead and click on this here. So as you can see here, it says broker. It is Shipping Connections Inc. Sorry. So as a dispatcher, you're looking for freight, and you're looking for freight brokers who have freight. So regardless of everything, they still need each other, just like truckers need dispatchers and truckers need brokers. It all comes down to become big circle where everyone just kind of needs each other's services to keep the transportation business running. So one of the things about freight dispatcher and a freight broker is you as a dispatcher are actually looking at this load board, looking for a load. So as you can see, I'm here looking for a load, looking to see what the broker has posted, where the load is at, where it's heading to, the distance, the equipment it needs, the descriptions, pretty much the commodity, pretty much just running through what the broker has already situated on here. On the broker side of this, the broker is the one who's actually inputting all of this information into the load board. So the broker is the one who is establishing where the pickup is, where the drop off is, all this information here. They're the ones who are pretty much inputting all the information as far as getting dispatchers to call them to pick up this freight. Now, another thing that I wanted to go ahead and touch base on, like I explained, it really isn't which one is better, because that's kind of something that comes down to you as a individual, which one is better, because some people are just better freight dispatchers and some people are better freight brokers. It really comes down to your personality, to who you are, to what you want to get out of freight brokerage, what you want to get out of freight dispatching. And one of the biggest things that I believe that is something that's different in between both of them is that one is calling a truck company to find work, to find carriers, find owner operators, and there's thousands and thousands of trucking companies out there, so there's a lot of opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's no opportunity in the freight brokerage side, but it is a little bit more compound to the point where it's something that you could learn to do, but you have to be well off, like very good at it. You gotta have a sales not experience, but a sales motivation in you to get through the freight brokerage training and learn how to broker and learn how to open up a brokerage firm. So as I was explaining, dispatchers are pretty much calling truck companies and truckers and owner-operators to find work, which those trucking companies need dispatchers to keep their business moving. Now, as a freight broker, your job is to call manufacturers, depending on what freight you want to move as a company. You have to, do obviously the cold calling. Just how dispatchers will do their own cold calling to generate their online marketing. It's pretty much the same tools, just you're aiming at different targets. So once trying to get in contact with trucking companies and owner operators, the other one's trying to get in contact with manufacturers. Now, why I say it's a little bit more compound than the freight brokerage end is because, as I explained, for dispatching, there's hundreds and thousands of trucks out there. You can get on the road right now on any major highway and you can look left, right, forward, and backwards, and you will see that there are plenty of trucks just going up and down the highways and up the roads. For the freight broker area, there is a lot of manufacturers, there is a lot of companies that need freight brokerage services. But there's a lot of them that are already established with someone. There's not that much opportunity in behalf of, the freight. It's just the competition's a little bit more, I guess you can say, complete. There's more of a situated base there than what there is already in the dispatching. And like I said, it's not that one is better than the other. It just comes down to being pretty much on yourself as an individual, of what you want to do, of what you think is better, of what fits your personality more. Are you a saleswoman, salesperson, a salesman, someone who is willing to go that extra mile to see a result, or are you someone who wants to do sales? Because pretty much dispatching services, a dispatching company is a sell of a service. So but I believe it's a little bit more lenient, and it's a little bit more a little bit more on the a step down away from what freight brokers are doing, and pretty much getting a business situated from start to to where they're at. Now, as far as we can speak about the income in between a freight broker and a freight dispatcher, it really isn't that much of a difference. The reason why is because, for the most part, everyone, whether you're a dispatcher or a broker, you're pretty much working off of percentages off the revenue of the load. So I'll explain that. So pretty much as a dispatcher, what you're doing is you're pretty much, let's say you have a load that's 2,300 and you're going to go ahead and get, let's say, 10%. That's what you'll make off that specific load. So that's a freight dispatcher working off percentage. And I'm going to go ahead and explain a freight broker as well, that for the most part, everyone as a freight broker works as off of a percentage as well. So pretty much as far as that it goes, it's pretty much, you contact the shipper gives you a rate, which is pretty much what they're willing to pay. You want to get that load out and kind of make everyone happy. So you want to make the trucking company happy, the trucker happy, and yourself as a freight broker happy. So let's go ahead and let's say that you get a load for $3,000. That's what the shipper's paying you. From those $3,000, there has to be a way to pay yourself as a freight broker, because you're working off of a commission. You have to find a way to pretty much pay a truck company as well. and you have to make sure that both parties are content to the point where the trucking company is okay with the rate that you're giving them, and at the same time you have to make sure that you as an individual is okay as well to make a roll-off commission off of this. So for an example, let's say that we go ahead and take away, let's say 2,600. Now, if you own your own freight brokerage business, this is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to explain that to you. So let's say this is your freight brokerage company, and this is the rate that you have, and this is where you're taking off. That's your earning as a freight broker business individual. So that would be your earning. Now, if you're working as a freight broker, like just working as an individual broker, and you're not your own, you're not your own individual, business owner, then you make a percentage off of this, and that kind of calculates down to what you and that employer of that time get down to. So let's say they give you a times 0.15 as an example, 15, then you would make $60 off of that freight, which, if you think about it, it's not bad either, because at the same time that's off of one freight. What if you move 4 to 6 of these a day? So we can go ahead and put that times 6. You're making $360. So like I explained, it really just comes down to pretty much your individual self to see what works better for you, what you think, sales part of the service would be a better fit to you and that you could adapt to. And it really just comes down to the point of making a decision in between either or. As I explained, this isn't really a comparison to the point to explain to you guys that dispatching is better or that freight brokerage is better. I'm just giving you guys like insight knowledge about both of these different careers in the transportation industry, and the reason for that is because I personally have done both. So I will give you a little bit of experience on my end. I'm going to go ahead and explain a couple of things of why, of what has made me kind of been in between both careers. I'll give you my opinion, and like I said, my opinion, not everyone else's opinion. This isn't a fact, it's just an opinion. I'll give you my opinion in between both. So I have pretty much done everything in the transportation industry but drive. I have done the freight brokerage side, I have done the dispatching side. As far as the freight brokerage side, I'll go ahead and start on that one. As I said, it's very compound, very sales on, and you pretty much have to be someone who enjoys the role of a sell. You're able to call manufacturers, call shippers, and generate some type of interest in your service to make sure that they have enough knowledge about you and your company from that phone call and an email to call you back and say, I want to add you to my load list and have your brokerage company represent my freight and find me trucks, which is the dispatcher calling for freight. As I said, it's not that it's not hard, and it's not that it's better or less than a dispatcher, but it's just more compound, and it's just more of a sales role, which isn't bad. As I explained, there's a lot of people out there who just enjoy sales, and there's a lot of people out there that can do this and step right into it and just skyrocket into the market. And then there's some people out there that jump into this and they just can't start that ship and go off. So as I said, it just comes down to you as an individual to see what fits you best. Now, I want to go ahead and get into the dispatcher side of the transportation industry. So it comes down to, you start thinking about things and you look at the form of dispatching. So a dispatcher is just pretty much a person who is contacting a broker finding freight to be hauled to that trucking company or trucker that they are working with to keep their trucks moving. So in that part of that aspect, I feel like it's easier because once you have something established as a dispatcher with a trucking company, those trucks are going to have to move week in and week out regardless of what's happening out in the market, whether there is loads, if whether brokers are finding loads or not finding loads. It doesn't concern you because that's what you have this load board for. As I explained, you just click a button and all the freight in that area pops up. Different brokers and whatnot. So your job just kind of sits on a more lenient job duty because all you really have to do is make phone calls, find freight, book the freight, and get your trucks going. So it comes down to be just something a little bit more convenient, more easy, something that I believe anyone can kind of do. Anyone can just kind of jump into it and learn it as a trade, teach it, take it in as a career, as a profession, and succeed in it. And I'm not saying that you can't do that with the freight brokerage side, but I'm just saying it might take a little bit more effort to do it, other than the dispatching side of the career in the transportation industry. The other thing I want to go ahead and touch base on is if you're looking to find a business out of the transportation industry and you're looking in between freight broker and freight dispatcher, it comes down to a point where obviously one of the first things that you think about starting a business is the cost. What's it going to cost to start up a freight brokerage company, and what's it going to cost to start up a dispatching company? So that's very different, and that's actually a big point of why some people go one way or some people go the other. So as a freight broker, you have to have a $75,000 bond. Some companies need you, like some shippers, manufacturers need you to have contingency insurance, even if you don't have a truck. The truck can have contingency insurance taking it, but they need additional contingency insurance on the brokerage side. You have to find work. Like I said, you have to call shippers. If that shipper, for an example, doesn't give you a load, there's no loads for them that day, then you have to find more manufacturers and shippers to give you more constant work. So you could wake up unemployed from day in and day out. Today you could have 12 loads and the next day you could have 0. If that manufacturer and shipper aren't as consistent as you thought they would be. So, and the cost of, pretty much building that business is just a little bit more than what it is to dispatching. It's a little bit more on the, it's not going to break the bank, but you will see the difference that it does, cost more to generate a freight brokerage business. As far as the dispatching business, it's a little bit more lenient as far as the cost up front because you don't need this like $75,000 insurance, for the bond. You don't need to pretty much worry after you find work. You don't need to worry about that truck like not moving the next day because these trucks have to move. If these trucks don't move, then there's no money to be made. So it's more of a consistent job and something that's really just going to have a pattern. That's what I'm trying to get to. A dispatcher has a pattern of the week where they have trucks moving and they're always going to keep moving, and the freight broker has a pattern as well where they keep freight moving, but sometimes they hit a stop with a manufacturer and the manufacturer doesn't have anything for the next 2-3 days. Then they have to go up and keep on moving and go down and keep on moving until they find the next one that's going to give them shipment and freight to move. So as I said, it's not one is better than the other. It really just comes down to you as an individual to pretty much make the right decision on what you want to pretty much look into in the transportation industry. And whether you pick dispatching or freight brokerage, that doesn't mean that you can't do either or in the near future. If you decide that you did freight dispatching and you think it went great and you're like, hey, you know what, I want to give this freight brokerage thing a try, you can go right ahead. There's no limitations on what you can do and what you can't do. So it's something that's always going to be there and it's going to be open. But as I was explaining, it just comes down to something that's going to be on your end, on your tally mark, to see what you can take on. Are you someone who is willing to put in that, that pressure and become a freight broker and, crunch it and go make a great income? Yes, there's plenty of people out there that can do it. Anyone can do it. It's just you as an individual have to pretty much be on top of it and be able to generate it. I believe that anything that you as an individual put into something, you will get out of it. So I'm not saying it's bad or it's better or worse than the other. And as a dispatcher, I just think it's a patterned career where it's more like you get situated and you just go and you just keep adding. Obviously it has its downfalls as well. Obviously, if something happens and the truck company doesn't work that week and it stops for a week, then you stop, obviously, because if they stop, then that truck isn't moving, it's not generating any income. There's no generation for you as well. So they both have their pros and cons. It just comes down to you being an individual and you picking what you want to do. But I believe that both, from my experiences, both have been something that can give you a well-structured income, whether it's a freight broker or being a freight dispatcher. I feel like the transportation industry, regardless of what career you pick, if one of the major things in your life is income, you can find well-off income in the transportation business, whether you become a freight broker or you become a freight dispatcher. It just comes down to you as a person on what you adapt to more, whether it's going to be a freight dispatcher or a freight broker. So that's just some basic information I wanted to go ahead and share about with you guys about the differences between a freight dispatcher and a freight broker. As I explained, it's not it's not pretty much just showing which one is worse or which one is bad. It's just a comparison, pretty much explain to you what this situation of the of a career of a freight dispatcher is and what this situation of a freight broker career is. But all inclusive, at the end of the day, if there's no freight dispatcher, the freight broker isn't getting any calls and getting any work. And if there's no freight broker, the dispatcher isn't calling the freight broker trying to grab that freight to make sure that these trucks keep on moving. So at the end of the base, when you kind of see that platform, a freight broker and a freight dispatcher are united like this, because they need each other to pretty much sustain the transportation business, and they need the truck to pull them out, to haul them out, because at the end of the day, those three main pieces of the transportation industry are extremely crucial, to the point that if they don't work together, the transportation business would probably be very now well established as it is now. And like I said, everyone pretty much situates and needs each other. And I want to go ahead and thank you again for letting American Logistics Academy provide you with this information and with this training course to help you succeed in life and find a very bright future in the transportation industry. And I want to go ahead and just pretty much mentor you guys and kind of explain everything that you need to know in the transportation business. So once you take it upon yourself, whether you take one route or the other, we want you guys to succeed here as from our company, and we want everyone to feel knowledgeable and have all the information needed. So once again, I want to thank you guys for choosing American Logistics Academy, and we'll talk soon in the near future. Thank you.